Hey everybody, it's Dr. Todd again. I'm in my kitchen today. Thought I would prepare a little something for you in just a minute to talk about this week's reading and understanding scriptures, which has to do with the reliability of both the Old and New Testament manuscripts. So you'll be reading from that book, the Understanding Scripture book, and it is, part 4, chapters 11 and 12, reliability of the Old and New Testament. A little bit tough again, but I just want an overview. I want you guys to have a basic idea of it. The other one, of course, Glenn Powell's wonderful book, Saving the Bible from Ourselves. I'm just having to read every other chapter, though many of you are reading straight through, and I really highly recommend that. So the two readings, and of course the discussion threads, which will be up. So that's the basics. And in just a moment, I'm going to come back and I want to talk a little bit about the whole idea of the ancient biblical manuscripts. Okay, so in the reading of your textbook, Understanding the Scriptures, you're going to talk about Old and New Testament manuscripts and their reliability. I want to do a little bit of a show and tell. All you can see is my hands and my island in the kitchen here. But you hear a lot of people talk about the original manuscripts of the Scripture. Well, we need to say a couple things. First of all, we don't have any of the original manuscripts. None exist. We don't know when the last one disappeared. The earliest manuscripts we have are partial manuscripts about 40 to 60 years after Jesus ascended, and those are just a few little fragments. And a lot of you have commented, and some of you actually, we've had interactions in our comment threads about the King James Version. And a lot of people say the King James Version is the preferred English translation because it's based on the oldest complete text. Well, there's a challenge with that. I want to push back, and I hope I don't offend anybody. It's a true statement to say that the King James Version is based on the oldest complete manuscript, and that's called the Textus Receptus. However, in the hundreds of years since the King James was first published in 1611, we have found hundreds and actually even several thousand partial manuscripts. Now you say, well, isn't a complete manuscript better than a partial manuscript? So I wanted to do this. This is just a dramatization, but I hope you can read this. It says it's a little bit of scripture for, the, and gave. That's all we can see. Well, let's say that we found this bit of a manuscript. It's actually not parchment, it's wax paper, and this is my kitchen, but we'll pretend it. And then we found, maybe somebody found another partial piece, okay, and it's got some other words on it. So loved world that he, his only son, and so we kind of put that down somewhere so maybe we can read it. And then we find a really good manuscript, but it's still not complete. There's some burns, there's some scrapes, and we can read that it seems to be saying the scripture, for God so loved the world, and we start kind of lining up these together, and then we find even another piece that's got part of it cut off, because all these manuscripts are so old, they have things cut off, and we're able to lay that over. And I don't know if you can see this clearly, but when you lay them all over on top of each other, we can clearly see it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. And of course, that is the passage that we know of as John 3:16. And that's what these partial manuscripts have essentially done. There are hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of partial manuscripts of portions of the scripture. And when they essentially overlay them on top of each other, they were able to come up with complete manuscripts. And so the manuscripts that the more modern translations are based on, the New American Standard, the ESV, the NIV, the New Living Translation, the Revised Standard Version, the New Revised Standard Version, some of those others, they are all based on groups of manuscripts that are not, quote, complete. They're not full, but they date back much earlier than the Textus Receptus that the King James was based on. And so while the King James is a wonderful translation, it was the first, not really the first English translation, the Tyndale was the first, but it was one of the early translations into English. It was very good, but we have some very, very good translations now. Now, I have a couple of books here. Let me adjust this just a little bit. I have an Hebrew Old Testament, and if you look at it, it's got Hebrew on one side and English on the other. I have my Greek text. This is the one I used all through seminary, and it doesn't have any English in it. It is just Greek. And I had to study this in seminary. I had to study Greek. Actually, I'll be completely truthful with you. I studied Greek for a year. I have 12 graduate hours of Greek, and I only have 4 graduate hours of Hebrew because I found Greek just a little bit easier than Hebrew. But the truth is, neither one of those really made me an expert in Greek or Hebrew. My professors were all experts. They had had years and years of studying Greek and Hebrew. And we now have so many wonderful helps. We have the Logos software. We have so many great translations. We have wonderful translations like the ESV and the New American Standard and the Revised Standard and the New Revised Standard that are more word-by-word translations. And then we have wonderful thought-by-thought translations like the New International Version, the New Living Translation, the Common English Bible, and others that are just great translations as well. So when it comes to the reliability of the manuscript, there is more data, there is more evidence for the Bible than there even is for Aristotle or Socrates or some of those ancient Greek writers. The reliability is so high, it's just unbelievable. What I recommend that people do in serious Bible study, of course with Glenn Powell's book, we're talking about Bible reading versus Bible study. But when you're doing serious Bible study, I say you need at least one of each. You need one really good word-by-word translation and one really good thought-by-thought translation. And if you want to throw the King James into the mix, that's absolutely fine. If you like 1611 archaic English, that's just fine. But I would also include like an NASB or even the New King James Version, which is kind of the NASB anyways. And then the ESV, one of those. And then alongside it, the NIV, the Common English Bible, one of those. And between those, you'll really get a sense of the best translations. So that's just a little thought regarding this whole idea of the reliability of the manuscripts. On another note, I want to comment that the video this week, the interview between me and Glenn Powell, is wonderful. It's where Glenn really starts now talking about the idea of a reader's edition of the Bible and how we can read the Bible in the way that it was originally intended as opposed to studying the Bible and really do both of them. They're two different functions, and I think you'll really enjoy the video. So I hope you guys just have a great week. I am so excited to be with you guys, and next week, next Saturday, I leave for Africa, but I'll be doing a taping before then, and then hopefully while I'm in Africa, I can do a few videos as well. God bless you guys. Have a great week.